So they're addicted to Findom. They have the means through which they want to play. They don't have the society around them that accepts that it could just be a bit of fun, or that it could be a supportive and therapeutic way to indulge in something that is fun for you, but also can be executed safely. And they are, even now, flipping from person to person, spending exorbitant amounts of money, not getting satisfied because they're not having the complete control that they want. And then, regretting, the guilt, the shame comes in. Whereas it's the same with any kink. If we have an open conversation and we mutually agree and we set some boundaries and we decide what's right for us and how we're going to work it, and we're going to go slow and we're going to go safe. And if it's not enough, we push a bit more, or we pull a bit back, and we communicate how we're feeling.
Welcome to Vaginas, Vulvas, and Vibrators with Jordan Donnell. This is a safe place to learn about women's health and sexual wellness. I'm your host, Jordan Donnell, physician assistant, women's sexual health educator, and intimacy coach.
All right, welcome back to the Vaginas, Vulvas, and Vibrators podcast. Today I have Countess Diamond here with me, and we are going to talk all about financial control, which I am so excited to dive into and learn more about this, because before they reached out to me to be on the podcast, I actually had never heard of this before. So I think this is a really fun topic to explore here today. Before we get into that, I'll tell you a little bit about her. She is an award-winning professional dominatrix and kink expert, and she is also the online representative for the Sex Workers Union and has been featured in newspapers for her work as a financial dom. So I want to just start and give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about yourself, kind of how you got into this work, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so how did I get into this work? Well, I got into this work just in the same way that anyone gets into their job. They have a somewhat passion interest in it, and they need a bit of money. So they go, I like it, let's try it. So you would call that survival. I needed to survive. So I'm a survival sex worker. And so I started my journey talking with people on two-way cams. And they'd say, oh, you have this kind of like dominant personality. And I'm like, I don't know. Do I? And yeah, it started with me experimenting. And then I found that I absolutely flourished. And it was like every moving object in my world came together. And I went, oh, that's what I was supposed to do with my life. And so here I am, 8 years later, and I'm enjoying every day.
I love that. And I love how your journey has kind of led you to what you do now, and that you didn't just start here. And I think that so often, I mean, that's how it is in all workspaces, right? You start in one place and eventually you grow and flourish in a particular area a lot of times. I am curious, what is a countess? Countess?
Oh no, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
Um,
okay. You just
I don't
picked that
know.
name?
No, so there is a tradition in some circles of BDSM, and everyone is different in this. But in my circles, it's kind of traditional that you get given a name. So my name was given to me by a wonderful domina called Madame Caramel, and she was like, I know what you're going to be. You've got to be Countess. And she said it. She said it, the Countess, and she had this very long S. And it just stuck. Gives me a little electric feels when I think about it. But yeah, it just stuck. And the way she said the Countess, it gave it more stature, So I always try and use the, because it's how she said it when she first gave me that name. And then I have in turn used that name to name an apprentice who is the Lady Platinum.
Ooh, ooh, I love that. So, okay, this is totally going off topic a little bit, but do you train people on how to do financial control?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So I train, I'm going to be quite gender kind of stereotypical, but I train men to manage their money, and I train more often women to manage men's money. I mean, there's all sorts of wonderful people on the gender spectrum, but that's generally my client base. Yeah.
So, what is financial control?
Well, I mean, it is what it says on the tin. It's taking someone's finances and giving them the skills they need to be able to survive, and in the short term, taking control. And it's usually coming from a space where someone is struggling. So they may be dealing with, usually it's financial domination addiction that they're dealing with, that they come to me for. And it's a really difficult place to sit ethically when someone is coming to you and saying, I have this massive addiction to spending this much money on this and this much money on that. But I now want to spend my money on you to provide the same thing. And I'm like, how do I sleep at night, knowing that I'm taking advantage of someone in that way? And most of the people who do come to me with that, I'm not into playing in that way because it doesn't feel like it's a two-way street. It doesn't feel right for me. But there are some people who have kind of gone, okay, I see where you're going wrong here. You're seeking a financial control that is much deeper than you're getting, because there's a lot out there that's FinDom, which is the kind of shortened, the kind of colloquial name for financial domination. And so people, rightly so, create an account. They say, it'll cost you £10 to see my feet. Great, whatever you do, you. That is a really good way for some people to earn money, and I wouldn't ever stop them going to do that. But financial control and financial domination is a much deeper kink than FinDom. And FinDom in itself is a valid kink. It's a quick interaction of no return on your investment. But I like to see financial domination as an agreement instead of a one-way street where you're just giving for nothing. And a lot of times people come to me and they say, I just want to feel controlled, financially bound. I want you to take control of my life. Now, of course, it's not easy to take control of someone's life, and it's not ethical, and it's not legal. And there are lots of things preventing that happening, because fraud, because of trafficking, because of all these awful things that happen. So it's quite hard for anyone to just waltz into someone's life and take control. So it's a very gradual process, and it requires full trust. So whereas someone who is spending money on just FinDom, they are interacting in a very sort of superficial way, as in, a smaller amount of money for a smaller return of, even by saying, thanks, loser, or even by saying, you don't get anything from me, that is still a transaction. It's still happening. It's still ignoring them. No action is still an action in that. But that deeper trust of, I need to know your name. I need to know where you live. I need to know how many kids you've got. I need to know if you're in full-time employment. I need to know what outgoings you have, phone bills, what child care arrangements there are. I need to know everything to build a complete picture and see where you're going wrong in this. And more often than not, it's spending on porn, it's spending on takeaways, it's spending on all the good fun things, right? But it's excessive spending on those areas. So we take a deep dive into their lifestyle, into their savings, into their account, that every stone gets uncovered, and then I take control. So it's same but different.
Yeah. And so are you controlling like how much they can spend, say, on porn, or how much they can spend on going out to eat or on vacations or different things like that? Do they have to ask permission? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's different for different people. Some people, they say, have a very small budget of kind of fun things to do. So they only have, like the bills are paid, you've got your insurances, your pensions and your savings, and they're managing that, and it's fine. And they've got a small amount of money to play with, and they want to feel the control. So they say, Countess, I have £200 this month that I'm going to spend on this kind of thing. Will you please take it from me so I don't spend it willy-nilly? And I, knowing their complete situation, knowing that they've paid this, that, I can say, I'll have 150 of it. And then I will check in with you at the end of the month. I'm going to see what you've spent that on, that remaining 50. And if you've got any left, then I'll have it. But I'll leave them a little leeway. And then there's some people who I control everything and I have access to see what's happening in their bank accounts, but I wouldn't ever make a transaction myself. And I see where they're spending their money. I know exactly when that's going out. I can check to make sure that they haven't spent over those limits. And then I say to them, and this month we are going to get your car changed because you're spending way too much money on that. And we need to pay more off on your credit card. So there are people who just want a little bit of titillation and fun, but I wouldn't do anything without knowing the real in depths of them. And then there are some people who need every penny accounted for. And in those cases, I would say, you need to ask me for permission to buy cigarettes because that's a luxury. If you've got enough money to buy, to spend on cigarettes and yet you have all this debt, why these two don't balance? Let's sort that out. So, yeah, they have to ask me if they want to spend money on takeaways, on non-essentials, on luxuries. Yeah.
I feel like this could be really helpful for somebody who maybe has poor money management skills, in addition to maybe like learning how to manage their money better. Is this something that is generally like short term or something that they do longer term? And also, like, I don't want to say like, are people getting off to this, but does it turn them on to have all of this controlled?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, they definitely like it. And that's the thing. They're spending their $200 or their $1,000 a month or whatever on these exciting luxury things that is within their remit, within their wheelhouse. They have the money to spend, and or maybe not. Maybe they're spending a little bit too much on their debt, and they should be probably focusing on kind of like reducing that financial burden. But there are certainly people who thoroughly enjoy spending their money on a woman like me. And even just the money to make me manage their money is a thrill. And I I love that they're enjoying it. And you're right, it's people who are struggling to understand what even is their income before tax? How would they strive to work more hours at work? Who do they even speak to? How do they work towards a promotion? What does that promotional discussion look like with your manager? Well, let's have a practice talk. And I will not holding back. If I feel like they've not done this, they've not done that, then I'm going to cut the amount of money that they have to spend on XYZ. If they want to work hard, I will make them work hard. If they want to be slack, they're out. So yeah,
Mm. Oh,
they love the control.
yeah, this is so interesting. Why is financial control so controversial or considered controversial? I have kind of a general idea of, like you are, for some levels, you are managing more, you have access to the bank accounts. So I can see where that can become very controversial. But I'd love to hear kind of about the controversy behind being in financial control.
Yeah, it's really controversial. And that's why it's so important for anyone who is in the dominant role, who is looking to do this, is protecting themselves, but also anyone in the submissive role is also protecting themselves. Like you need to make sure you're looking out for yourself. And I don't just mean financially, you need to look out for yourself legally because accessing people's bank accounts is not a legal thing to do. It's it's borderline, right? There are people who want me to take power of attorney. There are people who want me to have their homes given to me, who want to take out debt in my name. And there are limits that a dominant needs to set. And that's where it gets dangerous, because this is a thrill. And it's easy for a thrill like this to get out of hand, especially when there's massive amounts of money involved. I, for example, had a submissive who applied for financial control, and I knew them fairly well. I knew about their situation. They were a multimillionaire Orthodox Jew from New York, and it was really difficult in their religion to be engaging in stuff like this. So they're addicted to Findom. They have the means through which they want to play. They don't have the society around them that accepts that it could just be a bit of fun, or that it could be a supportive and therapeutic way to indulge in something that is fun for you, but also can be executed safely. And they are, even now, flipping from person to person, spending exorbitant amounts of money, not getting satisfied because they're not having the complete control that they want. And then, regretting, the guilt, the shame comes in. Whereas it's the same with any kink. If we have an open conversation and we mutually agree and we set some boundaries and we decide what's right for us and how we're going to work it, and we're going to go slow and we're going to go safe. And if it's not enough, we push a bit more, or we pull a bit back and we communicate how we're feeling. But with this person, because they are dealing with such shame, they want to try and get a quick fix because they don't have the time and they don't have the freedom. And they are desperate to sign over everything to me, but I just don't. I can't. It's not right. They're not in the right space. But someone will. Someone will. Someone will take them up on their offer. And yeah, I don't know if that person's going to be as ethical as others, but it's difficult. It's so difficult.
Yeah. And I feel like that comes down to understanding kink and safety of kink, because in any kink, there is safety, whether we are playing with, like, say, blood, and there is blood risks, or whether we are playing with money, or whether we're playing with breath and the ability to breathe. Like, death is a potential risk there. And so I think that, it comes down to the knowledge of your Dom and the safety and the experience too. How do you find somebody that is safe to explore with if you are looking for a Dom?
That's a really great question, and a question I get asked an awful lot, because I have lots of different strings to my dominance bow, as it were. So financial domination is only one part of what I do, and I do it very specifically with just very few clients, that I get so many people who want to be one of my contributing submissives. And frankly, I've reached capacity. I have no space. I'm really happy with the people and the play partners that I have, and they're thriving. And so there isn't that space. So people always say to me, "How can I find a dom? How can I find a dom?" I mean, it's look, it's not hard to find a dom, but it's not hard to find lots of doms, right? It is hard to find that one person that you gel with. And the most important thing you can give that is time, and let your feelings settle. So you may be feeling very intensely turned on, or very intensely kind of seeking this praise or this affection or this connection with someone. But you need to slow. You need to double check that this person is the account that you are supposed to be talking to. Like for me, I have hundreds of copycat accounts, and I know that they're taking money from people, and there's nothing I can do to stop that. I try and warn people, but I'm so silently shadow banned that I'm so impossible to find. So if you are speaking with someone, make sure that it's the real someone. And the way to do that in a professional dominant space is to go to that professional dominance website and then follow the links from their website to their Instagram, to their specific profile instead of kind of the other way around. In a private capacity, it's probably even harder because you have a lot of kind of catfishing and romance scams and things like that. So I think you need to listen to your instincts. And if you can't hear them, you need to wait and find your instincts first. And that I feel like can come with age and experience, but just go very, very, very slowly. And don't be sending your details to anyone that you don't know. Don't send thousands to anyone on the promise of anything. You have to take it slow. And a good dominant wants to take it slow because it's about the relationship that you build. Because I could get in just as much trouble as they could if the situation goes wrong, because I'm accessing and I'm advising. And also, just to say, I only take on a few clients, and that's because I work with an accountant, a chartered accountant, who has much more extensive knowledge than me. So when my clients, my play partners, fill in their forms and everything, and update their documents and update all of their details, and they love the data, that is then anonymized and sent to my accountant, so that not only am I there going, hang on, did these numbers work out? But they are too. They're checking it as well.
I love that. And I love the support that you have to really help control the situation. Do you find that most of your clients are multimillionaires?
Not most, no. No, I do have quite a few multimillionaires. I have uh, I have the chief financial officer of a company, which is so fun to me. Just little old me
That's so
dominating.
ironic.
I know,
The
right?
financial officer, right? But
I
yeah,
don't- I know, and it's so fun. It's just it's completely just subverted this. You think, oh, there's no women of power up there in the CEOs and the CFOs. Well, this one is. Um,
behind the scenes and in power.
I know, and I like that because like I can be secret. I can influence things secretly. Does he always take my advice? No, but there are boundaries. I know I can't influence his business, but when the stocks are doing well, I certainly get a good lump of that.
That is so fascinating. I literally never thought about this, and financial literacy is something that I personally feel pretty competent in. And I would love to share that knowledge with people. I've also been exploring becoming a Dom. I am very fascinated by that. And something that's interested me for a while. I just haven't made any
Yeah.
moves, but I also personally feel like this is something that I need training on, and that you can't just wake up and be like, I'm a Dom today.
No.
And all of a sudden you go out there, like there's so much safety for yourself behind the scenes and in true learning to be successful and create safety for the submissives as well. What are some key words that we should know about when we're looking at financial control? When I was looking at your website, a couple of the words that came up was piglet, debt contract. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what those mean.
So Piglet was a financial submissive that I had. And he came to me, he was so unhappy. He was unwell. He was that unhappy. He had eczema, he was overweight, he was drinking, he had asthma. And I'm not saying that I can cure these things. God no. But when you're struggling with something and it brings you down and you feel shame about that, you can't live a complete life. You can't feel settled and you can't see the bigger picture when you're fretting about sweating the small stuff, basically. So he came to me and he was really unwell. And we used to talk for hours, because it's so important to understand what's making this tick. Where has this come from? What's happening here? Like, let's pull that thread. And I'm not a therapist, but when someone comes to me and says, I have a kink, I need to quench this thirst, I can help with that. And I can also advise therapy, and I can advise getting an ISA, and I can advise sorting your car out, and I can advise, let's get you a gym membership. So we worked together for so many years. He's now debt free, married, fit. He's just he's off living the good life, and I miss him, and I we message sometimes, but it's not my place, you know. Our relationship came to its natural end, and I feel so just so happy to see him out there doing his thing. But yeah, the piglet thing, it's quite common for someone to refer to a financial submissive as a pay pig. So he was just such a cutie. He was just so sweet. He was just like a little what's the word? Nestling in little piglet. So yeah, I used to call him Piglet, and it just so happened that he was into financial domination. It wasn't a derogatory, it wasn't a humiliation thing, really. It was quite a sweet thing, really. But yeah, being a pay pig, being told to oink, being a piggy bank, these things are all very fin-dom related. But it's to do with humiliation. It's to do with I can take control of you. I'm going to dehumanize you, and just you're just a little farmyard object to me. You're just a nothing. You're a little stinky pig on the farm. You're my bank. You're my piggy bank. So there's quite a lot of like pig references around that. It's quite strange.
Are you ready to start understanding yourself better, learning and recognizing your patterns, and really develop a relationship with yourself? If this sounds like you, the Unleashing My Power, a women's empowerment and gratitude journal is for you. This journal was specifically curated for women just like you to help you take back your power and develop and go to the next level in life. My friend Danielle and I created this journal because of our own experiences and what we were looking for in a daily practice to improve our connection to self and really become connected with ourselves. This is game changing, and the feedback that we are getting from other women who have started using this journal is absolutely amazing. You can find it on Amazon, or you can go to jordandannelle.com/journal and it'll take you right there. I hope you enjoy. Be sure to go snag yours right away and leave me a review. Tell us what you think about it. Slide in the DMs. I know that your life will change when you start using this journal. It's so crazy because I would say like I'm involved in the kink space. I am not sheltered to everything that goes on outside of my bubble. However, it always surprises me with how much I learn, and that I never even would have thought about, somebody being a pig or calling them a piggy bank, things like that in relation to like money. I never would have crossed my mind.
Yeah. There's this wonderful thing I see people do, and I find it fun when someone wants to be an ATM. So it's just objectifying them, and you don't even talk. You just say, type. This is generally you type. You say, "I'd like to withdraw £40, please." You don't even have to say please. I always say please. I say thank you to my Alexa, and then they respond with enter your PIN, and so you just put in your PIN, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it spits out the money. So they send you the money, and that's it.
Wow, I love it. I love that
Yeah,
this is available for people who are interested in receiving it on both ends, because
yeah,
there is reception. It goes both ways. It's not just like you are getting financial benefit from this. Like there is somebody that is seeking the desire to be financially controlled, who's
yeah,
wants to spend their money in this way to help support them in whatever capacity that is.
yeah. It's amazing, and there's some wonderful people out there in this crazy little world. It's just pure. It's so pure. You've worked a whole day for your your day of wages. And it's pure control to take that away or to give it away. And it's distilled almost. And then when you take away the kind of middleman, which is doing a service for that fee, for example, if you were to say, do a sexy Skype call or something like that, you just take away the middleman. You cut out that I'll do this if you pay me, and you just go straight to the business end and you go, you get nothing. Well, you don't get nothing. You get the interaction, but you effectively get nothing. And you're going to give me XYZ money. And it's just distilled dominance.
Yeah. That's so juicy. What does a debt contract look like when you are creating one with a potential client?
Well, the beauty of financial control and those who are interested, I've actually got some interesting stats if you'd like some, because I
Yes,
know
please.
I know all of the averages. I know average age. I know everything. Let me pull them up a second. So a debt contract with me is a very automated thing. And that's because why? Why would I spend my time doing something that I can automate? I know that sounds strange, right? But I want to make money while I sleep, and people want to spend their money while I sleep. So I took away any barrier for somebody sending their money to me. And I'm going to bring up the statistics. 97% of users of my debt contract are male. They 89.5% of them are married. And the average income of 142,000 a year, and they are on average 49 years old. Those are my stats for you. So
I love that.
if you think out there, if you think someone is that average, then this might be their kink. But my debt contracts, when you sign up for them, you at no point talk to me. It's all completely automated, because that's the beauty of this. It's not having your mistress wait around for you. You just you give to them, and you don't need a response. You don't require a response. And you've taken the distilled submission, and you've just popped it in a little digital envelope for her to open when she's ready. And it's beautiful, because I wake up and I have these little envelopes of emails with, so and so has paid this. So what happens is you pay £10 to enter the debt contract. And there are 3 different levels, and each level costs a little bit more than the next. But there's risks, and we'll talk through the low risk. So low risk costs £10, and you enter in your details, so your card number and everything, and it all gets processed through a third party, a transaction. So it's nothing to do with me there. It's all above board, because you're playing a fantasy game. So once that £10 gets sent through and you get your email, it has a contract that you can read through, but you agree by playing is the agreement. You enter into this by agreement, if that makes sense. And then you'll get your debt dashboard, and you open the debt dashboard, and it's lots of numbers. So it was created by a submissive of mine who works at a hedge fund. So he's very, very good with Excel. And it essentially has how much debt you will need to pay and how much debt you have paid. And then there's a list and a column for any incurred fees. And so your first £10, which was supposed to go towards your first debt repayment, gets removed as a fine. So they're already, like, step 1 is already coming back. And the design of the contract is that however much you pay, you will never pay off your contract. It will keep going up to a point when you have trebled the amount of the original contract, and then there is a buyout. I get emails all the time, and they say, Countess, this isn't what I expected, or this is too much, or this is too hard, or I've lost interest. and I'd like to end it. And I absolutely honor that. I mean, you can sign up and you don't have to pay a penny. You can say sign up with your initial $10 or £10, and it feels good and it feels fun because you're being controlled, but you don't actually have to complete it. No one's coming after you. It's not it's not a legally binding contract. I mean, perhaps you could argue it, but I wouldn't want to pay that bill. So
Well, I feel
it's
like that,
fantasy.
yeah, that document could also be extremely helpful if you are somebody that has debt and like, what is the timeline? Like, what amount do I need to pay to get this
Yeah.
get this gone, get rid of the
Mhm.
debt in a certain period of time, right? And so I feel like that could be very beneficial because managing debt it's a lot. I have a ton of student loan debt and I have a lot of Excel spreadsheets because again, I like numbers, I like all of that fun stuff. And looking at debt can be very overwhelming and challenging. And what a cool way to make it a little bit more fun. And like, yeah, they're paying you, but at the end, when the whole debt is paid off, they can actually turn around and buy you out and pay the debt off.
So we need to stop for a second because the debt contract doesn't pay their debt off. It pays a fictional debt to me. So it might be that that might have got confused in the translation. I don't know. Um, but
What
there's an
happens when they buy you out at the end? What does that mean then?
so they just pay a fee to end that contract. So they are no longer in debt. I mean, it's fictional debt. They don't pay me to pay off their own debt. They pay a fictional debt to me. So I say, you owe me £1,000. They don't. They don't have to pay. They don't owe me this at all. But they feel like they do. So I will then send them a series of emails, and it's like, welcome. What a very good pet you are for joining my bank of submissives. Your first payment is due on this date. That will mean this much has been paid, and you still have that much to pay because they love numbers. But if someone is existing with real debt, credit cards, store cards, student loans, whatever this may be, that's definitely something that I work with a lot of people to get rid of. It's so important to get out of debt before you do anything else. And people are laying in these games and they want to have financial control and they don't have the finance to do it. So they're spending all this money to try and get the control and it's all fictional. But with the people who really, really need it and really desire it and are honest with me, about their debts, their problems, their outgoings, their pension, like everything. I need to know everything. Then we can begin to work on paying off those debts. And I have at the moment, I've got a financial management spreadsheet open, so I can talk you through the kinds of things that I would monitor. So we have a section for them. So that's their name, their experience level in kink, because that's also important too. What car they have, how much cash they have, what's in their bank account, whether they're employed, and what rate they get their pay. Is it kind of monthly? Is it weekly? Is it fortnightly? Is it weekly? Their children, their marital status, everything to do with them personally. And then we go over income, tax rate, which is different for every country, because that's the thing. I'm not just dealing with UK law, I'm dealing with across the world. So I can't just generalize everything. And like it shows them their annual income after tax. And most people don't know what that is. Most people that I interact with don't know. And it's like, that's your basics, right? And then we have some columns for any other revenue that they may have, and then essential bills. So you've got, mortgage or your rent, your oil, your gas, your council tax, green waste, like down to these tiny little things of tech insurance, Spotify, pet insurance. We have a column for dependents and how much those expenses cost. So it's down to things like clubs and activities. There's uniforms, sports equipment, nursery, wraparound care, like all of these things that you need to consider when you have a child. And it's so important for me to make sure that these people are saving for their children's future. It's so important to me. So they have savings account for them, for their spouse, and for their children, as well as getting life insurance sorted, getting a pension sorted. So these are the primary things that we cover before we even start going on this journey of, and then I'll make you pay that. Then we have the personal expenses, and these are the things that we can kind of be a little bit lenient on. So you've got your primary food shop, your top-up food shop, pet care, pet insurance, gym, cleaner, haircuts, beauty. You know, if you're paying into a union or if you have any medical appointments, any subscriptions, anything like that. And there's so many more luxuries, savings, debt repayments, debt, travel, la 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 la. It's forensic, the amount of information that we need to make sure that we're making the right assessment. And then we can start going, right, if you pay this off, then you can have much more to play with and we can start having that fun. And yeah, it's so fun when you see someone finally get it, because they'll go, oh, I have this much money and I spend that much money. And I'm like, does that include the haircut that you get every 3 weeks? No, it doesn't. You're forgetting. Does that include your home insurance? No, you're forgetting. And then they go, oh, yeah, actually, I have got all this stuff that's mounting up, or this stuff that I've forgotten about. Suddenly, I don't have all that money to play with. I'm like, yes, there we are.
Mhm. Yes. Thank you for clarifying the part about the debt contract, because that makes a lot more sense. And I feel like, yeah, like once you understand what's actually happening with your finances, that actually provides a lot of freedom too. When you know, even though you're the one controlling it, there's still a lot of freedom when you understand your finances
Yeah.
in its entirety and all the little details, because very few people look at all of those details.
Yeah, completely. And they also have, a lot of them have the desire to be financially controlled. So they want it, they desire it, and they're kind of subduing these feelings. And they're also struggling with their own debt. So struggling with your actual ability to do it, and you're struggling with your desire to want someone else to do it. And you're receiving neither. You're receiving perhaps, the odd, so they call it fuck you, pay me. Fuck you, pay me, just pay me your money. Which is a short thrill. But this is much more of a lifestyle change towards a female led financial relationship.
I'm laughing because I have a playlist in my phone called Fuck You, Pay Me.
I love
Yep.
that.
That's great. So, if you are somebody that is interested in kink to whatever degree or type it is, how do you tell your partner what you're into without judgment?
I don't know. I don't know. I I have come up with this time and time again, and I don't know. I mean, for me, I just tell my partner, like, this is what I want. And he's like, yeah, okay, or not for me, thanks. So I don't know, and I struggle with this a lot, because the people who I speak to, the people who I engage in kink with, always ask, I wish she would do this. I wish they would understand. And I advise as best I can, but I don't know how to get it across in a way that is not shamed, because sometimes it's worse if you say, yeah, just be open, just be honest, and then they come back and they say, oh my god, they just laughed at me. And I just think, oh Christ, you know
Yeah.
you you two in this relationship, you stood up and you said, I will love you, for whoever you are and whatever you become. I'll love you in front of all your friends and family. And yet they're saying they like a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and you can't just let that be, let that exist. You can't. Yeah, damn.
Do you feel like people should tell their partner? And I say should in air quotes because it's so nobody needs to do anything. But at the same time, like, what do you think is most appropriate?
I think the way it's best is as soon as you think you have a sort of interest, you communicate that in a small way. And that should start as soon as you have your first date, almost, be open and just say, I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? I think about that sometimes. And I'm not saying bring up the downright naughty stuff, but broach the subject of being a little bit sexually adventurous. How do they take that conversation? Should you tell them? Yeah, you should. And I always advise that people do. And that's one of the first questions I'll ask someone, please introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And what's your experience level with this? And does your partner know? Because it's so important. It's just this one person who, or multiple partners are your homestead. They're your family, your life. And if you're experiencing these feelings towards something and you're having to hide, it's just such a shame. It's such a shame. But of course you don't have to. It's personal choice.
Yeah. I love that you brought up dating because when I'm going out on dates as a dating individual, sometimes I do bring it up. I do bring up like, oh, what are your thoughts on sex clubs? Oh, what are your thoughts on just like, interesting things that are maybe outside of traditional sex norms or societal sex norms and just see how they respond. And I have some friends who are also in this space that are like, how do you do it? And I'm like, well, I just want to see like, is it going to be a good fit or not? Because if instantly they're like repulsed, it's not going to be a good fit for me to be with somebody who is not open to some level.
Yeah. And you'll get some people who aren't interested. I'm like, yeah, that's
Yep.
okay. But I see people through my work and they'll say, oh, I'm going on a date. I'm like, good for you. What are they like? Where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? You're gonna mention that you kind of a little bit submissive? You're gonna mention that? Oh no, I'm not gonna. And I just think, come on. And I say, come on, you gotta if this is such a big part of you, then you cannot keep it back. So just say, have you ever? I'd like to one day. I'd like to. And and then some come back to me and they say, no, I couldn't. But I really like him and we're going on a second date. And I just think, come on, you have to establish your base of relationship on honesty. But how do we tell someone that we've been in a relationship with for a very long time that we feel a certain way? I don't know. Should we? I don't know. You're the only person who knows your partner better than they know themselves. You need to find that answer within yourself.
I love that answer. What are some of the life skills that you have learned from being a dominatrix?
You'd think I'd be a very good parent. you think you think I could negotiate with toddlers, right? But no, I can't. I still can't. My daughter she'll be 3 soon, and you'd never know I was the dominant one in any relationship. She walks right over me. I I guess I have a pretty good understanding of the male mind, and I think that's quite helpful in some ways. But I do feel like I'm sometimes living inside so many men's brains, and it is primarily men, that sometimes I kind of I need to break out. I need to I need to go into some femme space sometimes. Yeah, I know what they're thinking.
Yeah, it's crazy. And also gives you a lot of advantage in life to understand what the opposite sex is thinking a lot of times. Like there is a huge advantage to just understanding maybe a different perspective as well.
Yeah. I think there's one thing that I've realized that it's very gendered. Men, very much, it's about the penetration. Women, it's about the feel. Like, I mean, we sort of know that. We see that in society. We see this generalization, but every time I'm inside these brains, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's the penetration of, when is she going into my bank account, or when is the physical act of insertion going to happen? Almost like, put your card into me. I want to be in your pocket. It's like they want to be consumed. They want to be enveloped in things, which is like such a strange thing to say. But yeah, it kind of tracks. Yeah, they want to.
Mm-hmm.
They gotta go in.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. What would you tell an aspiring Dom?
I mean, I tell aspiring DOMs lots of things all the time. I would say to find your identity and to not worry what anyone else is doing. And, like, people might listen to this and go, well, she's all that and she's all this and she speaks in that way and she speaks in that way. I know I work with the utmost ethical considerations, like, to my own business detriment. Like, I've turned away millions because it's not what that's about. It's about control, about total control, and it's not about total money. It's about total authentic experience. And so find your voice and don't let anyone tell you that you're doing it wrong. As long as you know you've done your best to educate and to be self-aware, and try and live through all different experiences and see how that might interact. And then you find your niche and you flourish there. Don't worry what anyone else is doing.
I think that's wonderful advice for everyone. Don't worry what everybody else is doing. So often I feel like we're focused on everybody else but ourselves. And that has a huge impact and detriment to our own success in many ways. So I love that advice. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I've learned so much here today. Well, I end every podcast with this question. How do you define pleasure?
Well, are we talking sexual? Or are we talking just having a bit of a chill out day? Because that's also pleasure, right? I mean, I'm a mum. I'm knackered. So if I could just have a little bit of time with my vibrator and me, a hot bath, I'm fine. That's how I find pleasure. Do I have the time? No. But, maybe in a couple of years.
Yes, yes. Toddlers can be a handful from what I hear. I don't have any kids, but from what I hear and I see, they seem to be a handful. Where can the listeners find you at?
So I have various platforms, but I also have lots and lots of copycats. So make sure you go to countessdiamond.com and go any link out of there. That's the real me.
Perfect. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
This podcast is sponsored by Intimacy Coaching by Jordan Donnell. Have you ever desired more from your sex life, or feel like you're having good sex but curious about how to make it even better? Are you desiring a deeper, intimate connection with yourself? Or maybe you are dealing with desire and arousal concerns, or struggling with communicating your desires with your partner. If you're hearing this and thinking, that might be me, and you're curious to learn a bit more, let's chat. I would love to talk with you more to see if working with me is a good fit for you. To learn more about intimacy coaching with Jordan Donnell, go to coaching.jordandonnell.com. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you for joining today and continuing to bring awareness to women's health. If you love the show, please subscribe so you never miss another episode, and leave a review for others to see. If you want to see me on the daily, you can check out my bio for links to all my pages. Be sure to share this episode with your girlfriends. Thanks again, and see you next episode.